Hello again, thank you for clicking on, and I appreciate you watching and liking and subscribing. So I'm just going to do a second part of the interjected values talk, and the reason is because some of the things I didn't get through, as I said, they're short enough videos. So I'm going to do interjected values and considering conditions of worth. So very briefly and very interestingly, I suppose, is the when we go back to the interjected values thing, and we talked about the young boy who went to the mammy. He probably fell off his bike, hurt his knee. He probably broke his toe. He probably did something else, or his daddy. It's not saying mammy or daddy. It's saying the primary caregiver. So he went to them, and for somehow they told him, it's oh, don't be crying, boys don't cry. That's or it's wrong or something. Look, just be a good boy, be a strong man, whatever that message was. That child then absorbs that message in that moment, as in at this moment, it's not right, it's not safe to cry. So, right. So what'll I do? All the stuff goes on inside the child, and maybe a week later, the same or something similar happens, and he comes to the mommy and or the primary caregiver, I should say, and he really feels like crying, really wants to cry because he's a child, and he just needs to release that pain, that sadness that he's feeling, and he knows it's not safe. He knows coming to mum or dad, it's not safe to be vulnerable. It's not safe to show his tears. So he comes up and he goes, the little lip starts to quiver, but he's not crying, and the primary care over whoever it be, the mum or dad, to say, there you are now. Isn't that great? Aren't you a fantastic little boy? Aren't you brilliant? You didn't cry this time. Isn't it wonderful? And what that actually does is it creates conditions of worth in the child. So the child learns that at that stage that if I am to be accepted by my mum and dad, who at that age are the world, they are God to that child. They know everything. They are everything. They are the child's reason for existing. If he is to be accepted by the most important people in his life, he is not to show any kind of vulnerability. And that's where you get your conditions of worth with your interjected values. So you get into your interject, you start absorbing as a child all this stuff around you, and you develop your conditions of worth from this. I am worthy if I can do this, but I can't cry. If I cry, it's wrong. I am wrong. I am not to show, and it's considered weak because that's the lesson they learned, even though it's not. That's the lesson that's interjected as well. Be a strong man is the opposite. So that boy grows up, he knows he can't cry, he can't show vulnerability, he can't show what he's considering weakness, which it's not. And then he becomes this very controlled, very stubborn, very, because it's acceptable. Anger seems to be acceptable, an acceptable emotion, and aggression seems to be acceptable for a man, but crying isn't. So he becomes this really hard, really solid, really stern, you do what I tell you kind of character. I can see him as my boss, but that's the kind of thing. They develop these conditions of worth about themselves. I am only worth to the other person, to the other, if I do. And this is their internal absolute belief, and they don't believe anything else. And it takes them so long to break past that and allow themselves to feel. And even when they do feel, they're going to feel an incredible amount of shame around this, because it's been real for them for so long that they weren't allowed to feel any emotions. That essentially their feeling emotions was wrong. So there are conditions of worth around, like if I am quiet, if I study hard, and you hear this like someone who's going to school and they come home and they get a low enough grade, say, that's not good enough. No, you're not getting whatever this, this kind of thing. I give a reward system. It's not about, well, did you try your best? Well, if you tried your best, that's all. And that's not, again, blaming anyone, because we've all done it. We don't know what we don't know. So until you learn that, well, that was actually probably a little bit harsh. And the thing is, if you do happen, this is the beautiful thing about kids, if you do happen to make a mistake, if you do happen to turn around and say to a child, because we can have bad days, we're human. if you do happen to say to a child, just leave me alone for a second, my head's at me, what's potentially happening to the child is that they're annoying you, they're an annoyance, and they go away and they go silently into the room. It's absolutely okay when you're feeling better to go to that child and bring them back to that point and say, do you remember you came in to me yesterday and I said to you, go away. I'm really sorry about that. I was just feeling very sick. It wasn't about you. I just had a really bad pain in my head. And I love you. I think the world of you. But you can never love a child enough. There's always this idea that, oh, if I give them too much and I do this, if I tell them I love them, no such thing. You can never love a child too much. You can always give them more, and they'll always forgive you, and they'll always forget that pain. But the thing is, if you leave that introject to grow, so if you don't go to the child and bring them back to you and say, oh, I made a mistake there, tell them you made a mistake. It's okay. Why are we not allowed to tell children we made mistakes? We don't know everything. It's okay to tell a child, I don't know everything. Daddy, I make more mistakes than you. So that's the reality of it. Just to say to the child, even as close to the time as you can, but it doesn't have to be. Once you can say to the child, I was wrong, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. I'm very, very sorry. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? And the talk about it, obviously, depending on the age, will be dollies or toys, or maybe a child that's more properly verbal will be able to say, well, that really hurt me here. And one thing I'd always say to my kids when they're here, I would say, can you tell me about what that's like? And they might say something. And one of the little techniques I do is, can you feel me grabbing it? And I'll bring it up. How can you feel me grabbing it? Where is it now? And is it in your throat? Okay, we're going to let it out. And most of the time then they'll cry, because we want that out. We want that pain out of them. And it's okay to let them, because they're great at visualising and they're great at seeing the things and they're great at seeing it. And it's okay. And this is me hugging you. And it's all this lovely stuff. But it's just so important not to leave that sit, because if it does, it becomes the interject, and then they become this idea of, the people walking around today, I'm not good enough, I have to do better, I'm stupid. There's so many thousands of them. I can't name them in one video, but the point is that that's why we are the way we are. Because no fault to them, but our primary caregivers didn't know, and they knew what they were told and what they were shown. So there really is no fault to anybody, unless you absolutely are aware of it and you're doing it on purpose. There's no intent, there's no fault. So I'd say just give yourself a break. But that's the thing about the introjected values and acknowledging the conditions of worth, how we develop, how we see our worth in the world, and how we become someone who tries too hard. Or, if I do X, Y, and Z, they'll love me. If I go to college after school, they'll love me. Like, so someone says, you're not doing well enough in school, maybe that'll drive that person on, and the only validation they seek is education. Well, education will make them love me. Or if it's, I'll be able to play football better. If I play football better, if I score a goal this week, I'll be loved. But it's coming back into that, the core conditions, is the conditions of worth, is to say, I don't care if you score a goal. I love you anyway. I think you're amazing. I love to see you playing football. I love to see you out there having fun. I think you're amazing. Do you enjoy it? Yeah. Who cares if you score a goal? So I think that's probably why they've changed things to competition with kids. Everyone nearly gets a participation trophy now, because it's not about being the best. And I only wish adults were as generous with each other and just let each other off the hook and stop trying to compete with each other and see who's better. But that was our conditions of worth. That's what we learned, and we have a lot of work to undo. But the thing is, we can change that for the generations coming up, and saying, and it's as well, if you notice someone in your family or someone else in your family, it's okay to jump in at that point. I'm sure the child is more important than the aggression of the adult, but it's okay to say to the child, maybe Mommy's just a little bit upset today. Because in reality, we're not robots, we are humans, and if we feel our feelings, they're going to come out at times we can't control. And it's important to forgive yourself. So if you do say something that you feel, oh, I shouldn't have said that, you can always remedy it and forgive yourself. Say, I had a weak moment there, I took my eye off the ball, I wasn't thinking, I'm just feeling exhausted, because that's a big thing. If you're tired or that, you might just, but the child will always forgive you, and you will not develop that condition of worth in them if you bring it back and say, that's not what I meant there. Alright, so I hope that's not too rambly, and I hope it's added to the previous one and interjected values. Anyway, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.